Alright Halo, you kinda let me down last week, so what you got for me this week? We doing more nothing going nowhere, or are we gonna get some more of that sweet, sweet chief ass? Halo, the series, episode 5, Reckoning, is brought to us by director Jonathan Lipson and stars Pablo Schreiber, Olive Gray, and Kate Kennedy. On the run and out of options, Quan and Soren have a difference of opinion. With the possibility of finding the mysterious Halo on everyone's mind, John makes a horrible discovery and the war rears its ugly head. So last week's episode really kind of let me down. I was not feeling it. It was the first episode that got me to thinking that, oh shit, maybe all the stuff that the people that don't like this show have been saying may be true. I didn't like it that much, the story didn't progress at all, and the episode was overall just a filler episode at best. And after watching it, I thought, well, show, it might be time to just put the magnum to the head. But thankfully, this week, they made up for it. Because this week's episode was pretty fucking cool. Thank God, because I was really worried there for a minute. We start off with another flashback sequence to young John when he was a young boy on his home planet of Iridius. I think that's what it's called, I really can't remember. We see Dr. Halsey and Captain Jacob Keyes, great name by the way, touring a school on the planet that John is attending. We see this other little kid almost fall from a tree and die, but John is there, saving lives from the young age of like 9. After that, fast forward to present day, well, present in this universe, and a whole bunch of mofos have arrived on Iridius to unearth this new artifact that they found in the end of the last episode. They're running tests and all kind of stuff on it, and apparently they're having a hard time moving it out of the hole that they found it, and John is just standing guard all along. After some contemplation, John decides to confide in Captain Jacob Keyes that, hey, Dr. Halsey was on my planet before I was even in the adoption agency. He remembers her being there before the tragic accident on that planet, which doesn't make sense because she wasn't supposed to come into the picture until after he was in the adoption agency. So she's been lying to him about this. What else has she been lying to him about? Captain Keyes asks, why would you come to me and not just confront her about it? And John says, because you were my commanding officer. You always have. I have gone to battle with you. You were the closest thing to a friend that I have. Unbeknownst to John, though, Captain Keyes was there when Halsey went to the planet as well, but Captain Keyes keeps this to himself. Now, while all this is going on, we also see Quan and Soren on Madrigal trying to get across the wasteland to a transport ship to get them off the planet. They run out of gas. Soren handcuffs Quan to the motorcycle, and then he takes off to get some new transportation and come back and get her. She's not a fan of this, and eventually she's able to break free, and Soren comes back to find her with a new ride, and she's gone, and then she sneaks up behind him and like tases his ass to sleep. And that's about all the Quan and Soren stuff we get this episode. Not a whole lot of them right now. I feel like when they leave this planet, they're going to end up on whatever planet it is the Master Chief and everybody else ends up for the last episode, the big climactic ending. Probably Reach, if I had to guess. Pretty sure we're gonna be seeing the fall of Reach in the last episode of this show, and probably going into the storyline of Halo Combat Evolved, aka when we actually see and go to the Halo rings. But anyway, we're not there yet. Back to Chief and friends on Iridius. Now, as they're trying to unearth this thing, and Master Chief has this drama going on about, hey, Halsey was there, what else she been lying to me about? The rest of Silver Team shows up, and if you remember from last episode, Kai has removed her emotion suppressing pellet. Master Chief notices that she's acting kind of funny, doing some smiles and done something with her hair and all that, so he approaches her and he says straight up, okay, when the hell did you remove your pellet? And she replies, right after I saw you remove yours. And he's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? You are no longer cleared for duty because I can't trust you. You are not of sound mind right now. And she's like, what the fuck? You removed yours and you're still gonna go into battle? What the hell? Why do I have to be sidelined? To which he replies with absolutely nothing. He just looks at her like, bitch, shut the fuck up and go the hell on. I did like that she actually said something about this, and Cortana even chimes in and says, you know what, I like the fact that she said something because what you just said's kind of fucked up. You're being a little bit of a dick and a hypocrite. However, we have seen so far in the show that the Master Chief is able to handle this new change in emotions better than Kai, and also, when we get to the end of the episode, it probably was a good call. We also see McKay or Mackie or whatever her name is, the human chick that hangs out with the Covenant, on Madrigal looking for something to lead her in the direction of where the other artifact is. Now right around this time, John gets fed up with all the lies and deceit and says, you know what, I gotta know what the fuck's going on. When I touched that little artifact, it brought back all kinds of memories, cleared up some shit. I'm gonna go touch this big artifact, and I bet it's just gonna open up a whole new world of possibilities for me. And that's what he does, and when he touches it, he goes fucking orgasmic, and just shit goes haywire all over the place, and apparently it sets off a signal or something, and as Mackay and the elites are on Madrigal, they get the signal, and she's like, I know where it is. So now they're headed to Iridius, and then the chief comes off of this thing. Halsey comes in like, what the fuck are you doing? And he looks at her and he's like, now I know. And she's like, hey, calm down. He's like, I know what you did. You put a clone in my place. What was that? You kidnapped me, you bitch! And he goes to knock her the fuck out, and Cortana shuts his ass off like a fucking light switch. He comes to a few minutes later, he is pissed. He's like, what the fuck? Why did you turn me off? And she's like, you were endangering Dr. Halsey and yourself. And he's like, do not ever do that again. Bitch, you ain't got the right to do that. He's really mad. He starts going off, and all of a sudden, Cortana says those words in his ear, slip space jump has been detected. And this is when shit goes the fuck down, and this episode goes from pretty entertaining and cool to fucking awesome. If you don't know what slip space is in the Halo universe, that's like their light speed travel, if you will. That's the easiest way to describe it. So that means something just entered that they weren't expecting, and what do you know? It's the fucking Covenant. So you got all this UNSC down here, you got the big bad Covenant, and they're about to come to fucking blows, and shit goes down. John goes into chief mode, runs outside, gathers Silver Team up, and they get together to whoop some motherfucking Covenant ass. And that is exactly what they do. They grab the artifact, they put it on a warthog, and they take off across the desert to get to a transport as the Covenant are coming in with banshees and ghosts. We see grunts and jackals for the first time. The jackals have like these little energy swords that I've never seen in the game. That's pretty fucking cool. There's people getting taken out left and right. There's explosions all over the place. There's army guys and Covenant everywhere. People just getting hacked apart, shot up. It's fucking awesome. It is a huge epic battle, and it was the shot in the arm that this series needed. We get a warthog that gets jacked by a grunt, and then the Master Chief jumps on the hood and takes the grunt out and says, can I drive? And only the Master Chief could say something so fucking corny in that situation and make it badass. Cortana's sitting there telling him the whole time, you got something to your left, your right, your 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, all that shit, and he's like, shut up, I know how to play the game. I thought that was kind of cheeky, but it worked here. Now while all this is going on, Kai goes out into the battle as well, and she starts seeing the carnage and the people dying, and it's just too much for her because of the emotions, and she just kind of freezes up, and the Covenant start to take her out. She's on the ground, she's getting beat the fuck out of. Chief sees her from afar and says, I can't let her die, and he goes over there to save his comrade's ass. Everybody's like, no, worry about the artifact, don't do it, don't do it. And he's like, fuck that shit, this is my girl, I gotta save her ass. He jumps off of a moving warthog over a cliff, lands onto a flying banshee, takes the pilot out, grabs the bottom of it, pilots it with his fucking arms, because he's just badass, rams it into a phantom, making it explode all over the place, taking out God knows how many Covenant, lands on the ground, somehow lives. There's a bunch of jackals and grunts and other Covenant down there ready to take his ass out, plows through their asses, saves her life, but then unfortunately the Covenant do get the larger artifact and take off, leaving behind Mackay to infiltrate the UNSC at a later date, I assume. And this is where the episode ends, and I thought this was a fucking wonderful return to form for this series. This episode had everything that a successful episode needed. It was entertaining throughout. It gave us a lot of story that moved the narrative forward in meaningful ways. We got to know some of our characters a little bit better. There was actual payoffs to things they've set up in the series so far, and there was a healthy dose of awesomely badass action. The whole episode wasn't non-stop action. It was actually a real nice mix of giving a story and then the exciting action. And if they would just continue this formula for the rest of this series, then they will be golden moving forward. Now, not everything here was perfect. While I did really enjoy this extended action scene, there was something about it was a little off, and that would be the effects. They're not terrible by any means. They all look really good, but I feel like there was a little bit of drop in quality in a few of the effects. Not all of them. Overall, I'd say they all look pretty good. But much like the first episode and some of the issues I had with the animations and the weight of some of the characters in that episode and the battle scene in the beginning of it, I had that same issue here, but it's a lot more. And it's mostly the Covenant characters and technology, like the Banshee and the little drop pod things that they shoot down, and even some of the ships. While at one moment they look really good, at other moments they look a bit off. Doesn't pull you out of the show or anything, because it's all done really well, but you will notice it. Overall, the show still looks fantastic, but with this much CG on screen at one time, there's gonna be some stuff that stands out. With the end of this episode, it seems like things are finally starting to really heat up. We are moving towards that conclusion of the season. While I've been excited just about every week to see what happened the following week, this week I am really excited and can't wait to see what happens next week. What are the Covenant gonna do with this artifact? Is Kai alive? Is Mackie going to infiltrate the UNSC and get the smaller artifact? What's gonna be the long-reaching effects of Kai and John removing these pellets from their backs? Is Reach going to fall this season? And of course, when are we going to finally get to Halo? I am really looking forward to now, hopefully, all of these questions being answered really soon. This is definitely one of, if honestly not the best episode so far in the series. Does it make last week's episode understandable or more or less make up for it? No, not really. Last week's episode was still a wash. You don't get shit from that episode, really. But if we only end up with one filler episode this entire season, I'll take it. Please, 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 Halo showrunners, make this episode be indicative of what we are going to get moving forward. Because if that's the case, then this show is on the right track and is going to be fucking badass all the way to the end. So there it is, guys, my spoiler review of Halo Episode 5, Reckoning. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below. Become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits to go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Dragon Con and Marge G. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Zettering.
Silver Team, on me.
So while the extended action scene in this episode was fucking awesome and just badass, I gotta say that my favorite scene in the entire episode is a scene that has no action in it whatsoever. It's just two characters talking, and it all boils down to one character's response to another. You have Spartans Kai and Vanek sitting here talking, and Kai asks the question to Vanek, have you ever wondered why the Covenant want to kill us? And Vanek's like, no, not really. They want to kill us just like we want to kill them. That's all I need to know. And then Kai asks the question, have you ever wondered why you don't wonder why? And his response is just fucking golden.
You ever wonder why? You never wonder why?
I wonder if all that gun grease in your hair didn't seep down into your brain, asking me dumbass questions like that.
I laughed my fucking ass off about that for 5 fucking minutes. I had to pause the episode, I was laughing so hard. New favorite character.